3, 2, 1. Happy New Year, Eagle fans, and welcome to the first episode of Eye on the Eagles, your all-access pass for all things Avila Athletics. We are live here at Tanner's at Redbridge for the first episode of 2024. I'm Sports Information Director Tim Hackett. Our first guest today, head bowling coach Paul Wolfe. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Thanks, Tim.
And welcome home to Kansas City from Las Vegas. I know you guys spent a week there, about a week or so before Christmas. So what was that event like now that you can put that in the rearview mirror a little bit?
It was exhausting. No, it was a really good experience. I think our teams got the experience and got to see some of the best teams in the country and see what we were up against and kind of put themselves against those teams and see what we need to work on.
What specifically did you learn then about your teams getting to see some of those other schools, other squads from across the country?
The really good teams, the Wichita States, the Scads, the Newmans, it all comes down, and it's what I preach all the time. It just comes down to filling frames and making spares, and putting together a couple 3 strikes, and capitalizing on it, and that's where we kind of lack. We kind of lack a little focus. All my guys can strike like crazy. But it just comes down to filling the frames, and it always will. We're a young team, a young program, and that's just mainly the difference.
This is a rookie question. Can you teach focus? Is that something that you can coach? Because like you said, the guys have the skill. A lot of them have been bowling for a long time, so they understand how the game works, how the sport works. But can you teach those little, the other elements to it to make them a better competitor?
I think it can be taught. I think it just comes with experience. A lot of my guys, when you cross in these tournaments, when you're moving from lane to lane, you get next to or cross with Wichita State. Well, I watched, or SCAD or whoever, and I watched my guys. All of a sudden, their heads are on a swivel and they're watching them instead of paying attention to what they need to do. And it's not unfounded. I mean, those are great teams, and you get caught up in watching what they're doing and trying to emulate what they're doing instead of focusing on what you need to do. And I get that. Wichita State's won 19 national titles. Why wouldn't you watch them, right? But it's hard to tell these guys and these girls, focus on what you're doing when you've got all these great players around you.
That is something that's so unique about your sport is everybody's in the same building at once. And like you said, you keep moving back around and you've got, 30, 40 other teams that you might be next to at any given moment. So you're seeing all of these different other athletes from all these different backgrounds that have all this different level of experience, different level of skill. And you can literally be pitted right next to them or right across from them, like you said, and they're trying to do the same thing that your athletes are trying to do, but it might be going better, it might be going worse, and so you're literally shoulder to shoulder with all these other people trying to do the exact same thing.
Right, and I think sometimes my guys and my girls get a little intimidated,
Sure.
And rightfully so. I get intimidated by some of their coaching. I mean, I've known a lot of these coaches for years and years and years, and they're very successful. And you try to take something that they're all doing correctly and encompass it into your program. And so I spend a lot of time picking brains and asking questions and stuff like that.
Speaking of things that you are familiar with, I know that Las Vegas means a lot to you. It's a place that you've spent a lot of time in over the course of your career. So what was it like to kind of go back there for really the first time now in this phase of your career?
Well, I lived there from 1986 to 1996, and what Vegas has become since then is just crazy. It was great. I got to see a lot of old friends. I got, Wendy McPherson, who was the 1990s bowler of the decade, came out just specifically to watch us.
All right.
So I got a picture of, with me and her, and that's pretty cool. I got to see some people that I used to work with and I used to bowl against, and some other coaches, and it was really neat. And that's the first time I've really spent any time at the South Point, and that is a very unique experience because you're staying where you're bowling, and it's got this huge stadium, 60 lanes, and another bowling center in there, and a movie theater, and of course 11 restaurants, and there's gambling. So the kids got to leave with their parents and go explore Vegas a little bit.
Nice.
I never left the building for 5 days, so I didn't breathe fresh air until we left to go back to the airport. So I was pretty, a couple days in Vegas is great. 4 5 days is way too much.
I was going to say, it sounds like you had the Vegas experience. You had
I was
everything you
ready to
needed
go.
in that one building, right?
I was done. Yeah.
So yeah, you were telling me there's a casino in the same building, right? It's basically the same. It's all in one.
Yeah.
Casino, bowling center, restaurant, lodging, everything all in one.
And it's a half-mile walk from your room to the venue.
Mile.
It's literally someone actually put their pedometer on it, and it is a half mile. And imagine dragging 5 bowling balls.
Fair enough.
The girls were a little tired, so
I was gonna say can't beat that commute, but maybe you can. That actually doesn't sound very easy.
yeah, it was. It's a lot. It's a lot physically.
Yeah. And the structure of that event, the 2 events, it was unique, I guess, because you were telling us before you went on the last time you were on the show that everybody was split up. So
yeah.
I'll ask if that was a benefit to you, but to recap, everybody was split up, so the guys were in the morning and the girls were in the evening both times, so 4 straight days. So you got to be with every member of the team more so than you typically get to, especially on those events where you got 4 different teams that are in 4 different centers in 4 different cities technically. So
right.
What was that structurally like differently compared to what you might be used to?
Well, for myself, the first day I was pretty excited, and I got up with the guys, and they had to be there by 6:30, and so I was there, their whole squad, which didn't get done till 2:30 or 3 o'clock. So I stayed with them the whole time, and then there was an hour and a half break for them to redo the lanes, and then the girls came back at 4, and we didn't get out of there, or I'm sorry, it ran late. The guys' squad ran late, so we didn't get out of the bowling center until 2 a.m.
Oh, man.
So I got back to the room by 2:30, and so it was a 20-hour day that first day.
No kidding.
And then I, woke up the next day, didn't get down there immediately with the guys. I was a little wiped out, but I tried to be there at least for half of their squad every day to check out what was going on. And so it's from a coaching perspective, it's a lousy tournament. It's if you don't have a huge staff, you're on your feet a lot, and it's tough. For the players, it's actually pretty good because the guys get done. They got the rest of the afternoon to go do whatever, go eat, nap, do homework, whatever, and the girls don't have to wake up at the crack of dawn. So for the players' perspective, it's great. From a coaching perspective, it's a lot of work.
What was it like to have 2 events back to back? Because typically you have to travel somewhere. Might be, as far as Lawrence, it might be Quad Cities or somewhere even further. You're going out there to compete over 2 days. Then this time you guys go all the way out to Las Vegas, but you get to compete over 4 days, which makes for a long week for sure, but it does make for 2 competitions.
Yeah, that's the best part. And we're doing the same thing in Lawrence here in February, where we're bowling 2 events over the weekend, which that's fantastic, and it really cuts down on travel, and that's the best part is you can get all those tournaments in. If you can do it in a weekend, or in this case, over 4 days, it's great. And it really, like I said, cuts down on the travel, and that's all we're looking for is to cut down on the travel a little bit
and maximize the number of balls they get to throw, right? I mean, the number of frames they get to hit.
Yep.
How much of a benefit is that for any individual bowler, especially maybe somebody who's only going to go out there and throw 2 or 3 games? That they've got multiple opportunities to get out there rather than maybe only 2 or 3 in a weekend.
Well, it all depends. I mean, we try to get a lot of people in, but there's a lot of times we don't. So we're going to try and put our 5 best out there all the time. Now we've lost a couple to injury this year on both teams. We've lost 1 to grades. So we're dwindling down second semester, and I think everybody is. So it doesn't really matter as much as how much they get to play. It matters the quality of play.
And what's coming up for the team then in January as you officially flip the calendar over to 2024? Could be an eventful month, especially with what's coming up later on this month. Well, let's hit that first, I guess, and then we'll swing back and talk about what's coming up more immediately. At the end of January, a big event
Yeah,
still on tap.
We've got the Eagle Invitational. We've got 14 men's teams, 14 women's teams coming in. We've got some really good teams. It's going to be a pretty good field. And that'll be out at Aaron's in Belton, our practice facility. Mike always does a great job, hosting us. And our JV side of it is going to be at Summit Lanes in Lee Summit, Missouri, and that's Brian Strickland will be taking care of that. It's a long weekend for us, but it's enjoyable weekend. It's great. It's great to not have to pack up everybody and hit the road. So it's a really good weekend for us. We really enjoy it.
It's got to be unique because of what you just said. Typically, you guys are traveling every single weekend that you compete. Not every single weekend of the year, but every single weekend that you compete, you do have to get up and travel. Even if it's a short-ish trip like to Lawrence or this long one out to Las Vegas, it's an event, and we understand that it takes logistics, it takes coordination, it takes everybody being there, all this stuff to get to any event. And so, what's it like then, having already done it once and getting ready to do it again, knowing that you guys get to be the home team for a change, you don't have to travel as far?
It's great. it's fantastic. It's nice not having to worry about getting everybody awake and fed and all that stuff. And the drive, it's just a comfortable feeling bowling at our home center.
So you can't see it right now at home, but it is starting to snow fairly heavily here in South Kansas City, close to noontime on Monday, January 8th. So that's going to muck things up for just about every team, ours and others this week. We know that already, but even with that kind of precursor in place, what can you tell us about what your plans are as of right now for this weekend?
Well, we're supposed to go to Chicago for the Kegel, I can't remember the Kegel Championship. It's a Tier 1. A lot of teams going. As of right now, we're planning on going if the weather cooperates.
Sure.
If the weather doesn't cooperate, we're going to have to make a decision. They're supposed to get a lot of snow between Des Moines and Chicago. Close to, they're saying anywhere from 6 to 10 inches of snow. I'm not going to risk it. That's just a dangerous situation, driving a van with all those people, and so we're gonna see what it's like, see what the forecast looks like on Thursday before we make a decision about Friday.
Well, bad weather in Chicago in January, certainly something that
Right.
both of us are used to.
Yes.
But if all goes well and you guys are able to get out there for that event, should be, like you said, it's a Tier 1 event. Those don't come around very often. It is, quote-unquote, in this sport, a big deal if it is able to happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's at Stardust Lanes, which is an 80-lane center.
Man.
They'll fill it if the weather cooperates. It's not like we'll be the only team making that decision. So yeah, it's a big deal, and the points are there for postseason. So it's a big deal.
Well, officially welcome back home from Vegas.
Thank you.
Hope that you get that trip into Chicago in if you can do it safely. Hope you guys have a good trip.
Thank you.
That's coming up this weekend, the Kegel Classic in Chicago for the bowling teams, and then the second annual Eagle Invitational later on this month at Aaron's Family Fun Center in Belton, Missouri. That's head bowling coach Paul Wolfe. This is Eye on the 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the first episode of Eye on the Eagles of 2024. Tim Hackett now joined by head women's basketball coach Remy Wolfe. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Thanks, Tim.
You guys are, fair to say, on a hot streak right now. Do you know what it's like to trail in a game? Because you've done that this calendar year for about minutes of game time. So you remember what it's like to trail in a basketball game?
Yeah, I do. My memory's still fresh.
Fair enough.
The 9 last semester, yes.
This semester, don't know what it's like.
Yeah, no, this semester, no. New year, new us, I guess.
New year, new us.
Yeah.
Exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah.
It's 3 straight wins for you guys overall, dating back to December 30th, and 2-0 to start 2024, both KCAC wins. Let's start at the start, I guess. College of St. Mary. It just for me, it's just starting this impressive run of form for you guys to finish out last calendar year on a high note.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was pretty much the goal of our last game before Christmas break, was just really take the week of practice that we had there of just straight practices and then finish on a high with our last exhibition, going into our first game back, end on a good note, so then we can start on a good note, and we did. And then we were just able to continue kind of right where we left off at the end of last semester, right before Christmas, and take that into College of St. Mary. So they did well. So
do you think if that was your goal, to finish strong and then start strong, got to be mission accomplished, right?
Yeah, I think so. In our eyes, we haven't played a perfect game yet on both sides of the ball, but we're getting there. So yeah, we're definitely on an upward trend, and it's been good. The girls are playing well. They're playing really hard. They're being extremely coachable and getting a lot out of practice, and I think it's showing. We're playing well, so it's good.
I think you said you haven't been able to put a whole game together, but this past week you have seen both kind of ends of it in different highs, I guess. First game on Wednesday against Oklahoma Wesleyan, defensive showcase. This weekend against Bethel, offensive explosion. So to me, watching those two games, I just thought, well, all right, great. Now you've seen kind of the peaks on both sides. I guess obviously the hope is that you could put it together on both ends, but you've seen, I feel, for me, not being a part of the team every day, as good as you might imagine. Defensively against Oklahoma Wesleyan, offensively against Bethel, it's about as good as I think you might expect. Is that fair to say?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think our defensive effort, we had a game plan against Oklahoma Wesleyan on, how to beat them, and we executed it very successfully. We said we were going to sit back in a zone, let them shoot from 3, and we did that, and we were able to pull out the win there, and huge focus defensively there. And then going into Bethel, we shot incredibly well. So like you said, it was an offensive explosion for us, and it was really just good to see a lot of girls get a lot of good touches and put the ball in the bucket. Every person scored on our team, so that was really fun.
Took the words out of my mouth. That was kind of my biggest takeaway against Bethel, was that everybody that played scored, and everybody played 10-plus minutes, so you were able to rotate a lot of different players in. Part of that, I guess, is being up double digits in the second half, but still, you got a bunch of different players in. The bench contributed mightily. That was kind of a storyline on the broadcast, which I thought was a really salient point. 45 points scored by the bench. Bethel starter scored 52, so almost the exact same, which is not something that happens often. So for me, just kind of a team offensive effort in that game to lead the way.
Oh, yeah. Bethel was totally a team game. Everybody who played did a great job, and we knew we were down 1 going into that game, one of our leading scorers, and that was going to be tough. We needed people to step up, and they totally did. So in every way, everybody stepped up, and everybody was in great spirits, and it was a really fun game.
What was that approach then going in, knowing that you would be without that type of player, and then we're missing a scorer, missing a rebounder, somebody who does everything for us, and without her, not to say that obviously we'd much rather have her out there, but with her out, everybody else was able to rise to that occasion and fill some of those roles.
Yeah, no, I think they knew going in that she was going to be gone due to a family thing, and I think that they really just stepped up. They knew they were going to have to step up. Hannah Smith was one who knew that she'd have to really step up, and she did. 17 points in the first half is amazing. She had half her points at halftime, and I think she took that role of scorer on her shoulders for sure in that game, and really stepped up. And then the bench players who knew they were going to get a significant amount of minutes, really, really stepped up. So they knew it going in. I felt good about everybody going in based on our practices that we had last week, and they did great.
Let's talk more about Hannah Smith, because that was somebody that we were kind of tiptoeing around one of the last times that you were on the show. She was off to a slow start offensively this year. We know how important she was, how critical she was offensively to the team last year as a leading scorer, obviously, and we've seen her start to blossom over the last couple of weeks. She's led the team in scoring now 4 out of the last 5 games, including 3 in a row. So to me, she looks like she's really starting to come into her own, which has to be a good sign for her and for you.
Yeah, oh yeah, I love it. Yeah, the floodgates have kind of opened for her a little bit, if you will, maybe. She's shooting it really well. She's getting more confident in taking it to the basket, scoring from all 3 levels, inside, mid-range, and from 3. Obviously, she gets most of her money from 3, but she's done a really good job all over the floor. She's doing well defensively too. A couple steals the last couple games. So yeah, she's playing well. She's playing hard.
She was my nominee from your team for KCAC Offensive Player of the Week this week, just because of how integral of a role she's played over the last couple of weeks. I mean, is that something that you expected from her in this year's team compared to what we got from her last year? We expected her to be kind of a centerpiece of the offense, right, going in?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's few players, if any, that shoot it better than Hannah Smith in our conference. So to not emphasize, her scoring abilities in our offense would be silly. I mean, we have, luckily, a lot of good people that surround her. So if someone keys in really hard on her, we have a lot of scoring threats that complement her really well. But, I mean, if you need a bucket, that's who we're going to, and she's very consistent. Going to the rim, shooting, anything that she does, she's pretty consistent with it. So
speaking of consistency, I mean, on the other side of the ball against Oklahoma Wesleyan, they aren't the top team of the conference this year, but it was just, and they missed some shots, yes, but how you guys game planned against them, and then use your words earlier, executed that game plan against them last week was super impressive, and you totally shut them down. It's a team that can score, they can shoot. It's been kind of their MO for the last couple of years, even with previous coaches. Shoot the ball a lot, shoot a lot of threes, and it was definitely their prescription this game, and didn't work for them because you guys keyed in on it from the jump, it seemed.
Yeah, they lost quite a few shooters, and with their coaching change, I think she's playing a little bit different style of basketball than what we're used to from Oklahoma Wesleyan. But their team shooting percentage was less than 20% from 3, and so they have a big girl inside, 6'4". She wasn't at the game whenever we played due to whatever reason. But that was our initial thought on why to sit back in a zone, and really just focusing on packing it into the paint. They have a lot of guards that are pretty shifty and score a lot from the free throw line, a lot from inside the paint, and we really were just trying to take that away as much as possible. But knowing, too, that the 3 is not their biggest factor is really what we were banking on, and then they played great defensively. Our girls did, holding them to a very low score at halftime and at the end of the game. So it was really good.
I mean, if you haven't heard by now, the number is 0 field goals allowed in the second quarter, 2 total points scored. I remember, I was doing the live stats for that game, so I look over with my team that was helping me out, and I look up at the scoreboard. There's about 3 minutes left in the second quarter, and they had 11 points at the time. And I said, hey, didn't they have 11 points at the end of the first quarter? And then everybody that was kind of with me said, yeah, you're right. And so then it's like, all right, are we going to get off of 11 points? And they didn't until about 50 seconds left in the period with 2 free throws.
I know.
Yeah, so I'm sure that was a little – you guys probably were well aware, but more than before that, right, about what was going on?
I mean, I knew we were playing well, and they were missing shots, and we were getting a lot of stuff to happen defensively, lots of stops in a row. But I wasn't until about then when they were shooting their free throws, and I looked up and I was like, asked my assistant coaches, I was like, did they score yet? And they were like, I don't think so. And at halftime, I was like, did we really hold them to 2 points? And we did. So then I went in at halftime. I was like, hats off to you guys. 2 points is incredible. So that's, I mean, great defense. I mean, sure, they missed shots, but you can't not credit our defense for that.
Absolutely.
So Yeah, it was great.
I was thinking about how to ask you the next time that I got to talk with you, which ended up being right after the game, about when was the last time that you've seen something like that? Because I was quickly dipping into some of the previous seasons, trying to figure out when the last time the team allowed single-digit points in a quarter, 2 or 3 points in a quarter. I was deep into some history, and then I neglected to look at last season. So that one's on me, but. You don't have to think back very far to find the last time that happened, because it literally happened about 50 weeks ago. So, which is kind of hard to believe. So, You've now achieved that twice in your coaching career here. Another team failing to score a field goal in a quarter. It's happened twice, which is kind of crazy.
That is crazy. I went and told the girls, I was like, that's got to be some kind of record after the game. Like, there's no way a team's done that recently. And then you tell me after the game I did it last year, or we did it last year. And I was like, you're kidding.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that. I remember that game being very low scoring, but I didn't remember that we held them to no field goals, just free throws. So, I mean, again, that great job to them. Got some dogs that want to play defense, I guess.
It ends up being a perfect.
Or I make them play defense.
Or you make them play defense. Because, you had even said, that we know how great of a shooter you were. That offense is your game.
Yeah, defense is not. But here,
and
here
you go.
Like, they're learning from someone. Maybe not me. Maybe it's my assistant. I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure Maddie and Tiff know how to coach defense a little bit,
Yeah, they do.
right?
I'm like, you guys got the defense. I'll take the rest. Yeah.
Fair enough. That's how you build a staff, I guess.
Yeah.
Ends up being a great segue, because the last time that happened, the last time that Avila women's basketball allowed 0 field goals in a quarter, was at home against Friends last January, and that's who's up next, is Friends at Maybe Fieldhouse this Wednesday. So they just scored 90 the other day, so I imagine it'll be harder to hold them to 0 field goals, but that seems like that would be a nice formula for success this time around.
Yes, we hope we could hold them to 0 field goals. Actually, St. Mary's did it this year against Friends. They had one quarter, I think, where they had 0 field goals,
really?
Or maybe 1 field goal.
There you go.
It's possible.
Sure.
But yeah, no, Friends is great. They're top 3 in our conference, number 3 in our conference. They've only lost 2 conference games, and they're big. They've been big. They're good. They got a few new players that are talented, guard wise, and it'll be a tough matchup for us. This time of year, it's kind of got to find out what we're made of, and I think this week will be a big challenge, and to see how we play a top team like Friends, and then going into Kansas Wesleyan as well, who will be a tough matchup for us. Will really show what we're made of. So
I think that's a great point. That was where I was going to go with that this week, is that you've got 2 really strong teams on the schedule this week. We knew that going in. I mean, these were 2 teams that were predicted to be good in the KCAC this year so far. And, as we get into the second week of January, they both have been solid in the KCAC. You just beat Bethel, which now has the same conference record as you guys, so kind of a peer team, I guess, in that case. But you've got 2 teams that were, like I said, predicted to finish in the top tier, predicted to be playoff teams that are on tap this week. Friends on Wednesday, Kansas Wesleyan on the road on Saturday. So what do you think that you will learn from your team once you get back home Saturday night?
I mean, we only play Kansas Wesleyan once, so this is a big game for us on Saturday, because we only get one shot at them, and it's away, a tough place to play. But they're also even with us in conference right now, I think. So that'll be a good test for us as well, to play on the road against another team who, I mean, Bethel is a good team too. We played incredible, but like you said, they're not with us 4-4 in conference as well. There's about 5 teams right now that I think are 4-4, 6 maybe, handful. So, beating those teams that are the same as you or similar as you is huge when it comes down to making it to the conference tournament and seeding and all of that. So taking care of those wins and playing as hard as you can to get those and take care of business, not have letdowns in those sort of games, is really, really important. And then, I mean, playing Friends at home is a great opportunity for us too, because we're at home. They have to travel to us. They're a great team, and that would be a really big win for us to get. So hopefully on Saturday, even if we do win or lose, just that we played tough and played as well as we can against 2 really good opponents. And if we don't come out on top, that's okay. Hopefully we learn something along the way, but just that's the level that we need to be competing at, and we're playing good basketball right now, so hopefully it continues.
We're not even halfway through the conference season, so I feel like it's a little
Yeah.
bit too early for me to start, talking about the end of the year, postseason, things like that. But the fact that we're having these type of conversation right now in the second week of January, I think is exciting because that proves, which is something that we've talked about, and I feel like we talk about every episode of this show with every coach because it's true for every team how close this conference is, how thin the margins are, how many solid, how many strong teams there are. There's so little between a lot of the teams, and so the fact, like you just said, that there are so many teams with the same record right now in conference play speaks to that more than anything else can. So there's a lot still to play for just about every team as we hit, the second week of January. So for me, that's exciting. Might be a touch unnerving, but I mean that means there's a lot to play for.
Yeah, no doubt. Every game is important in the conference. So, just if you want to be in that top 8, taking care of business when you need to take care of business, and then competing as well as you can with those top few teams and trying to steal some wins from a number 1 through 3 team would be huge. So, I just stress to our girls that it's just really important to take care of business when you need to take care of business and not drop games that you shouldn't drop because you only get one opportunity to play teams home and away, and it's important to win on the road as well as at home too, and games that you should win. So.
And those opportunities coming up this week. Wednesday at home at Mabee Fieldhouse against Friends. Start time currently scheduled for 6 p.m. And then the Eagles hit the road this weekend, this Saturday in Salina to take on Kansas Wesleyan. Start time currently right now on Monday afternoon scheduled for 5 p.m. You can find all those details on ways to watch on our website, avilaathletics.com. And you can watch all the action anywhere you are live and for free on the KCAC network. Up next, Avila women's basketball against Friends this Wednesday night at 6 o'clock. A lot on the table on our end, not just the game. That's obviously the centerpiece, but Catholic Schools Nights, Hawaiian Night is part of Back to School Week here at Avila, so a lot to bring you as part of that festivities, and we'll also be unveiling the new Avila Athletics logo at the end of the third quarter of the women's basketball game. You heard it here first. A lot coming up this Wednesday at 6 o'clock. That's head women's basketball coach Remy Wolfe. You're watching 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the first episode of Eye on the Eagles in 2024. Sports Information Director Tim Hackett now joined by head men's basketball coach Tyler Bredehoeft. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Appreciate it, Tim.
And welcome home after your trip over to North Newton over the weekend. You guys are back in action, 2 games to start off 2024. Strong effort from your guys over the weekend against the Threshers. That's a team that perennially is one of the better ones in the conference, and offensively, you guys kept pace with them pretty much the entire way. Ended up being a 7-point final. What's your takeaway from that game against the Threshers on Saturday?
Yeah, we've been struggling to score a little bit all year. So, that was a game at least where our offense showed up to give us a chance to stay in it, because we just had games where we've defended well, but we just struggled to put the ball in the basket. So, I think it was a 7-point game, 5-point game or something at halftime. Came out hot. George Williams hit a couple threes there early in the second half. Tied up with, 15 minutes to go or so, and then I think they had a stretch where they hit 4 threes on maybe 6 possessions or 5 possessions, and then we just traded buckets there for a while and kind of try to make a push there late, cut it to single digits, 5 minutes, 4 minutes to go, and end up, with a 7-point loss there. But a lot of positives there, We've, continued to just grind it out in certain games and, keep reaching the guys to just keep working and stay at it. And they're doing a good job of that. So we've got to find a way, though, to just 40 minutes, get everybody on the same page. We've had games where certain guys have played well offensively and then others haven't. And that's kind of the Bethel situation. We had 2 guys that really stepped up and made shots. And, some other guys just struggled. We got to find a way to get everybody on the same page for 40 minutes in games.
Is that something that is coachable? Is that something that is learnable? And I guess the ultimate word there is that something that is achievable for a team to get to a spot where you've got more than 2 guys that are on it in a given night, so that you can compete more often.
Yeah, I think it's just more of a focus thing. When guys are going to have off nights and other people got to pick them up. We just need guys to dig in a little bit more in some situations and just make some plays. We'll continue to watch the film and put guys in situations where we think it's going to be the most successful for them and try to maximize, our guys' talents and put them in spots on the floor to be successful, to make plays for us offensively. So we'll continue to do that and keep moving guys around to where we can, hopefully then get it where it's just all clicking, for the entire game with everybody. So, yeah, it's a coachable point, and it's, a little bit more focused too, I think, by our guys and our staff, and just, really focusing in on what our problems are and trying to pinpoint it and then get it fixed in practice, or our guys have the best chance when the lights are on and the ball's tipped up.
You mentioned that, in some games, some guys are going to be off, but somebody that was on Saturday was George Williams. Mentioned him already, but 25 points in the game, 10 at halftime, another 15 in the second half. Most points that anybody on the team has scored in a game this year. And just watching from home, he looked like he was in a rhythm that we haven't seen from him so far here at Avila. It was really impressive to see what he was able to do to kind of will the team forward at times, if you'll pardon the choice of words. Yeah. I know that he is somebody that means a lot to you and somebody that you have known for a while. So can you speak about who he is first, and then we'll touch on what he did specifically on Saturday. But
sure. You
get to see, I feel, the best, at least offensively in terms of shooting, the best of what George can do.
Yeah, those are games that, we consistently saw last year when we were, at Rock Valley together. And we've, kind of been waiting for one of those games all year. He struggled a little bit. But a little bit about him, he's a tough kid. The year we made the Final Four, he played the entire second semester in the national tournament on a broken foot. This year he's dealt with some broken ribs and some cracked ribs, and he's been fighting through that. He's still fighting through it. He's got a little thing with that right now. So he's a tough competitor. And he hasn't played as well as he wanted to, but he provides us leadership, and he provides us structure on the court. His intangibles are really, really big for us. And then, when he can score it like he can, then he's really good for the team. And so, he leads us at times, but, there's been times where he's, we've talked and he needs to play better for us, but he knows that he's a good kid to have on your team. He's gonna do everything you need him to do. He's gonna work hard. He's gonna play hard. He's gonna lead by example. He's gonna play through injury. He's just a tough kid. So it's good to see him have a good game. He needed one of those. He works and he earns those opportunities, and he took advantage of it on Saturday. So hopefully we can get a little bit more of that going with him moving forward, and hopefully that just kind of bleeds into some guys too, and takes a little bit of pressure off of other guys. If you have one guy that's playing well, it takes a little bit of pressure off other guys too, and maybe we can see some other shots go down.
I mean, that was somebody that you mentioned to us when we first started to get to know you this past summer once you joined us here at Avila, is that obviously we knew he was coming along with you more or less, so you knew him very well, but that was something that you mentioned about George before we even saw him out there on the floor, is how much else he brings to a team and how much else he was going to bring to this team. And I think it kind of comes with the territory a little bit in that position as a point guard, that you're going to understand some things and have to be a leader to an extent, but not everybody does that, and he very much embodies just about all of that, to use your words, the intangibles that you want in a point guard. I feel that you want in a leader, that you want out of anybody on a basketball team. He brings those elements.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly right. He's the type of personality and character and player that you build the team around. He doesn't need to be the high scorer. He doesn't need this or that. He's just a guy that wants to win and compete. And you could put people around a guy like that and build a team around it. But when he can score it too, it's also a bonus. So he does a lot for us. He's kept his hopes high too. We're going through a stretch where we're not winning games, and that that weighs on players. So he's done a very good job too of just keeping us upbeat and positive, and with the rest of the guys on the team too are doing a good job. But he just kind of keeps us plugging away. He knows what it takes, and he's been there with with myself for the last 3 years, and knows what we're about and what we're trying to do, and so he's a good second voice for me out there with the guys too.
I have to talk about the previous game a little bit just to get us some perspective, some frame of reference. Oklahoma Wesleyan last Wednesday came in ranked number 8 in the NAIA, and you guys were right there with them for a large portion of that first half. But I guess, from your standpoint, having seen them, having prepped for them, having seen some of the other things that they have done this year, I'm not, expecting you to give me your top 25 right now, but like I said, they were ranked number 8 in the NAIA. That is perennially one of the best teams, not only in the KCAC but in our region of the NAIA. Did they pass that test for you? Like, is that a top 10 team in the NAIA that you got to see there last week?
Yeah, it's interesting that they're going to be close. The things that do that they're a top 10 team is they're super tough, they're physical, they're big around the rim. If they start shooting the ball a little bit better, and their offense efficiency gets where it has been in the past, they'll be a handful. But right now, Donnie does a good job of. They play hard, they play physical, they play smart. So they're going to give themselves a chance to win every game. And then if they really get their offense going, then they're really going to be clicking. So I think they're close. I think they're close with if you play tough and you play physical and you rebound the ball, you got a chance to win a lot of games. So I think that's where they're at. They. We played Columbia College, who was in the top 25 earlier. We've played Southwestern, and on good nights they're good enough to beat any of those teams. So, yeah, I think they're definitely a top 15 team, and they'll be a good representative of our conference. Come postseason play. And when you play teams like that, from our perspective too, you got to play clean games. You can't turn the ball over. I think we turned it over 27 times. We did a good job on the boards, but we wasted a lot of possessions with turnovers. And it's been I told our guys recently, just keep it simple. All right, let's value the basketball. We can't throw away possessions with turnovers, and we got to rebound. We can't let them get second chance opportunities. And when we get stops, we can't give up O boards and they get another opportunity at stuff. So we're just trying to keep it simple there. If you do those two things, you can then you can worry about everything else. So, we're to the point, we're with our staff and our guys, just keep it simple. All right, let's focus on these two things. If we get those things figured out here in the next, week, 2 weeks, all right, then let's kind of refocus on what we need to do to take the next step to better the team and keep moving in the right direction.
Makes sense to me because this is such a new team. As you and I have talked about on this show before, they're new to each other, they're new to you, they're new to us. And so it makes sense to just kind of start at the start and let's get a couple of benchmarks and let's make sure that we clear these levels first before we move on to anything more extravagant. I'm no basketball coach, so I don't know specifically X's and O's what you might be doing, but it makes sense that you would try to figure out a couple of things that we're going to master first at this point? Like you said, let's take care of the basketball, cut down on turnovers. Once we feel that we're in a good spot with that, then we can move on into whatever the next step might be from your philosophy, from your team setup, whatever that might be. But it makes sense as an outsider that you would go into this point of the season thinking, all right, let's make sure that we lock down these 2 or 3 things before we figure that we should move on into anything bigger or more complex, I guess.
Yep. That's exactly what we're doing. Keeping it simple. We try to throw a lot at them early, and just to get everything in scheme-wise and systematically and everything we're trying to do. And now we're just to the point where we just try to simplify it a little bit, because we're not good in certain areas, so it's not allowing us to do things we want to do. As a team. So we just try to simplify it a little bit and focus on areas of need. So we're just keep plugging away a lot. And like you said, a lot of new guys. So a lot of these guys is the first time they have seen any of these teams in the conference. I think we'll be a little bit better the second time around. We play teams for the second time. It's just a lot of new places they're traveling and a lot of different styles that they're seeing and they're not used to. So they'll be a little bit better the second time around.
Not many teams have had success against Oklahoma Wesleyan over the last few years. That's a team that's used to playing in Kansas City, and I don't just mean in maybe Fieldhouse, but also downtown here for the NAIA Sweet 16. But a team that Avila has had success against over the years is Friends. It's a team that Avila has played extremely well and consistently beaten the last few years. Again, obviously, that's new to you for your role with us, but it's kind of been interesting to see that, regardless of how either team might be doing over the grand scheme of things, Friends has been a team that Avila has been able to match up well against. Now, they've got a new coach this year as well, 1 or 2 new players even that I know, but that's what's up next for you guys this Wednesday at maybe Fieldhouse. So what can you tell us about what the Falcons are bringing to the table here in 2024?
Yep, they'll be a little bit different than what they've been in the past with the new coach there in Phil McClintock there. They're going to space you out, 5 out, just dribble drive kind of motion, try to get downhill and attack. They'll play a little bit free. They'll get up and down. Was looking at it this morning. I think they're averaging about 63 or something shot attempts a game, and I think we're right under that. We're right around the 56, 57 mark. So they're getting some little bit extra possessions in certain games. The tempo is going to be a little bit higher. So it'll be a little up and down game, a little bit different than what we've seen coming off a break with Missouri Western, Oklahoma Wesleyan, and Bethel in terms of their defensive pressure and how they play defense. Friends is going to probably sit back a little bit more, keep us in front, and just play a little bit different style. They'll get up and press and do some things like that sometimes to try to speed you up in the full court, but in the half court they're gonna try to gap up, keep you in front, and make you have to hit shots. So we're gonna need a good shooting night from our guards on Wednesday, because they're gonna dare you to hit some shots on them, and we're gonna have to be able to step up and make some of those shots.
I think Ian Connick is finally off the team. I'm looking over to Darian Miner for confirmation on that one, because he has been a thorn in Avila's side. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but that's just one of those guys. I feel like there's a prototypical guy like that in every conference in men's basketball at every level. It's just guy's been there a long time. Tough guy, hits shots, tries to bait other teams into doing the same thing. I don't know him personally, so it's not even me trying to goad anybody, but that was just like the guy for me, for our team, and I'm sure other teams have different guys that they feel the same way about, but it's like every year Friends would come here like, all right, here he is, and it's finally he's gone, so can look at Steele Chapman, I guess, who's back at the KCAC instead to fill that role maybe.
Yep. Yeah, their team definitely looks a lot like our team this year, where there's just a lot of new players. But everybody has those. I've heard that about Jared Larson about 4 times from coaches in the league too.
It's only year 3 for him here. It's not like he's a 5-year player.
Everybody's got that one guy that you're like, man, I could have swore he was a senior and he's maybe a sophomore, and it's just everybody's got one of those. So, it'll be a new look, with Friends and Avila on Wednesday. But, they're a team that's their record's not great, but they have played a lot of teams close. They have a lot of single-digit losses on their record. So played York tough on Saturday, and even before break they played Southwestern, I think, to 8 points. They play tough, and they'll be in the game late, giving themselves a chance to make something happen late. And That's something we have to get better with too, and we did that a little bit in the Bethel game. We've done it in some other games too. We just gotta play a clean 35 minutes, and that way the last 5 minutes of the game you've got a chance. You're within striking distance, or you got a lead, and so we're getting there. We're getting there. It should be a good game Wednesday. It really should. Matchups. We have several areas where we think we have the advantage, and I'm sure they've got several areas where they think they got the advantage. So pretty evenly matched. A little bit different styles of play, but it should be a good game.
Looking forward to it. That's up next for Avila men's basketball this Wednesday night at Mabee Fieldhouse. Tip-off scheduled for 8 p.m. It's a full night of entertainment, not just the basketball doubleheader. We've got Catholic Schools Night, Hawaiian Night as part of Welcome Back Week here at Avila University. We're also unveiling the brand-new Avila Athletics logos after the third quarter of the women's game, so around about 7 p.m. Make sure you join us for that. Women's basketball against Friends at 6, men's basketball at 8. Against Friends this Wednesday. Join Joe Van Amberg for the call right here on the KCAC network. And then the Eagles will travel to Salina over the weekend to face Kansas Wesleyan this Saturday. Game times to be announced. And as always, you can watch that live and for free on the KCAC network. That's head men's basketball coach Tyler Bredehoeft. For all of us here at Avila Athletics, including executive producer Darian Miner, thank you to Tanners for hosting us. Happy New Year to you wherever you've been watching. I'm Tim Hackett. We will see you next week, 11:30 a.m. for the next episode of Eye on the Eagles.